Hello everyone, and welcome to a bit of a special video from myself. This is not a Fire Emblem game, nor is it a ROM hack. It's an SRPG studio game, Gales of Nayeli'd. I've been kind of following this game for the past couple months, and I saw that a public demo released a few days ago, and I played it, and it was pretty fun. I thought it would be a fun map to optimize, so I did. And I'm pretty happy with the results, so I'd like to show them off. This is going to be an LTC of the demo version of Gales of Nayeli'd, Chapter 3. Let's get started. We're going to select our difficulty. That one seems to describe me the best. And we're going to get started with an avatar creation. Beginning with the class. For us, for our purposes, the choice is very obvious. The rogue has the most mobility of these options, and we're also going to want lockpick. We'll give him a little more strength to help there. He, him pronouns, and we'll take a quick look at the gameplay modifiers. Hardcore mode is basically 0% growths. I don't expect that to matter for a single chapter, but might as well. Rising Tide is a bit more complex. Enemies get a stat buff every 4 turns, so as it says, you're supposed to go fast so the enemies don't outstat you over time. Obviously that lines up with what we're trying to do by LTCing the map, but I've tested it out, and while my strategy is possible, it's much more RNG dependent. When it comes to like killing the boss and maybe a couple other stat checks. So while it is, again, possible, I'm going to opt against it so that I can have the cleaner clear and just kind of explain to you in my commentary what it would look like with Rising Tide. And Weapon Triangle, I'm not too interested in that. I'm going to go ahead and sign my name here. And while I know avatars are a very controversial concept in the Fire Emblem community, I am personally pretty happy to report, even though I'm not going to be showing off the story, that the avatar doesn't seem to have any role in it. If you want to look at the story, just check it on your own time. But while I do preps, I'm going to kind of explain the map and the units we have. If you just want to skip to the action, I've got a timestamp in the description for you, but for folks who want to kind of familiarize themselves with the demo, that's what I'm here to do. This is, as you might have seen in the objective window, a defend map, but fortunately for us, it's got the alternative win condition of killing the boss. So if I kill this handsome fella right here, I'll be able to end the map early, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. There are quite a few side objectives on this map, about 6 villages inside our little compound here, and a couple treasure chests outside of it. I will say, although I finished the map in 6 turns, and there are just so many side objectives, I was very happy with how many I was able to get done. I have to skip 1 treasure chest, and there are a couple unit like optional unit talks that give you items, but I had to skip those, but I got 1 treasure chest in all the villages, and I'm pretty happy with it. But that's enough of the map. Let's take a look at the units, starting with the avatar. This guy, he's a splitting image if I say so myself. A rogue. Rogues have 1 more movement than normal units, so he's got 5 rather than 4, and lower stats than probably the rest of the avatars, but pretty nifty inventory, some 1 to 2, and he's got like a personal little kind of mini Gale Force. You don't need to get a kill to trigger it, but you lose a bit of move. So he doesn't just have 5 move, he actually has 8, and you can buff that even more with the Thieves' Personal Haste Capsule. That's like a movement tonic. And he, thanks to his high move and lockpick, are just essential for getting this chest that I really want to get. The actual lord of the game is Nayeli. She's a lance-using ranger, pretty balanced stats overall, and what kind of sticks out for her is the Wind Spear, which has 1-2 and deals magic damage. She is just going to be spamming that thing in this demo. It's a really solid weapon. She also has like a mini charm kind of ability, but she's mostly just going to be covering my butt while I go for the chest. Next up we have Daisy the Pixie. She's easily the worst at combat of my crew, but that's fine because she's also a healer. She has a little bit of magic for self-defense, but she's really frail, as you might expect. I'm not going to have her do a whole lot, but because she has 4 movement and flight and canto, or rather the flight and canto, she is ideal for visiting villages. So that's what I'm going to have her do. Kidel is kind of like the tank of our group. High strength, high defense, and pretty accurate. I'm actually going to have him over on the left side here. He's going to cover for some units that join mid-map from this little squad here. Next up, we have Carrie, who is another rogue. She has 5 move, and she doesn't have the mini Gale Force, but she does have Canto, which is just awesome. She's going to be one of our boss killers, and to help her out with that, we've got the Smoke Bomb here, which is like a 3-tile teleport. I'll show that off, obviously, once she, pops off. And finally, we have Curtis the Archer. He's probably the most vanilla of this squad. Bows have 2-3 range in this game, which is neat. He's also pretty good at handling the watchtowers that are on this map, but for his job, and that is kind of covering my ass from enemies that would try and flank me and go for the defend point, I need him on his feet. And so his weapon of choice is actually going to be the Recon Bow, which gives him Canto when he attacks with it. As I said, there's going to be 4 units that join us after map start, and I'll explain them as they show up. But I went ahead and put the formation in order, and all we have to do is trade inventory between the 2 rogues. That looks good. Let's save. And let's go ahead and get started. Alright, kicking things off, we have 2 units join us at this map start, and these first couple turns are going to go by very quickly, so I'm just going to explain one for now. The one in front is Miles the Mage, and he's acting as a support unit for these first few turns with his little enchantment command that gives my units a little attack buff and makes their attacks target res. I used it here to make my archers' arrows have a little more kick to them, and right away I'm going to start using my thieves' tools. I had low res, use the movement tonic, and I'm having Carrie use the smoke bomb. It's a teleport, so she can teleport through walls. She just teleported through one, and I think that second one is not long for this world. Enemy phase 1, you might have noticed, I've completely vacated the center of the map. I just have a group of units in the left and the right, and the enemies in the center, while they do charge me down, they're so far away from the defend point that I figure I can clean up the right side and regroup before they have a good chance to strike at anything important. 2 new units joined us at the start of turn 2, so I'll start explaining them. The first one is Sharif. He's the lance armor looking guy, and he's going to be one of the most important units in this clear. High strength, high bulk, good combat arts, because, yeah, this game has combat arts. I've already used a couple. I'm not going to explain all of them, but rest assured, Sharif has a really good one. so he's going to be important for taking on the boss. His buddy, the sword-using Flynn, is not going to be as good. He's just going to kind of cover Sharif from some enemy aggro while he charges down the boss. There's the second smoke bomb, and now we can trap this archer. Getting a couple villages, and turn 2 enemy phase is the first point of failure in this map. Flynn, I need him to take on 2 enemies, but he can only live 1 hit between them, so he needs to dodge at least 1. He does need to lure that mage to get him out of Sharif's hair. But thankfully, this is a really, really lucky RN seed, and Flynn ends up dodging both of those enemies, so he's still at full health. The enemy thieves do use smoke bombs themselves, but I'm already waiting for him. Turn 3 comes around, and things are going to start winding down. You can see I've cleared out most of the right side. The thief is going to be weakened here, and you know, the bottom right, mostly there for the taking. I might as well explain the last unit that joined us, Annabelle the healer. I really like her because she's got high staff rank and a gun, but unfortunately she has to spend these first few turns visiting that village. And because now we've dealt with most of the enemies, we can start visiting these villages, knocking them out of the way. And you might think Carrie can actually get this treasure chest here, but unfortunately that sword fighter would actually block her off if she tried. And I also need Carrie to take on the boss, because the boss is strong enough that not just 1 unit will be able to do it. Turn 3 enemy phase, and the central enemies are now starting to present a threat to us in the defend point, but I have successfully regrouped a couple of my backline units so they can cover that. In the bottom right, I had to deal with that mage there, even though he was stationary for the first few turns, because he would charge us down after a certain point, and Nayeli'd's HP is looking really rough. This is actually a super lucky RN seed. I get a lot of hits and dodges that I don't need. These next couple turns are going to be very chill in comparison to the first, like, 2.5. But I could have been using this time to clean up with high accuracy combat arts, or healing with the herbs, stuff like that. Instead, I'm just gonna kind of regroup some of my scrubs in the center while my 2 boss killers approach the boss. And now I might as well take my opportunity to explain my boss kill strategy. Sharif, being kind of an armor knight looking guy, he has high strength and defense but lower speed, but thankfully he's got a combat art that forces him to attack twice, so that does some meaty chip to the boss, assuming he lands both attacks. And Carrie has a combat art that basically triples her damage against low HP enemies. So the plan is to have Sharif combat art him down to like a little under half health, and then Carrie finishes the job with her assassinate combat art. How this would function differently in Rising Tide is that those 2 combined would assassinate would come up just barely short. The boss would live on like 2 health thanks to his boosted defense, so you would just like rig a dodge on Sharif so that Sharif could finish him off on turn 6 enemy phase. But this here is turn 5 enemy phase, so the last chance the enemy will get to move on their own before we finally kill the boss. Turn 6 arrives. This armor knight looks kind of scary, but he's got to wake up earlier than that if he wants to threaten me. We're going to get that treasure chest. That's the warp. That seems useful. And we're going to initiate the boss fight. This is the other point of failure. Sharif's hit is pretty shaky. He's got to land 2 70-somethings. and in Rising Tide you would need to land 3, but once again, we are not in Rising Tide, so the boss is pretty much in checkmate right now, and I'm just doing a little victory lap where I get the villages and get the gun healer a kill because I like her. But after that, one more kill, and Carrie is going to wrap this up with an assassinate with these silencer daggers, and that is going to be Gales of Nayeli, Chapter 3 demo version, completed in 6 turns. This was very fun to plan out, and I hope it was fun to watch, so thank you for watching.